So we have some more investigations into Trump coming from New York. Two separate New York state investigations into allegations of fraud by President Trump and his businesses are now reportedly looking into tax write-offs on millions of dollars in consulting fees, some of which appear to have gone to the president's daughter and senior advisor Ivanka Trump, according to people familiar with the matter who spoke to the New York Times. The Times reported that a criminal investigation by Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance and a civil probe by the state attorney General Letitia James, which are being conducted independently, have both apparently issued subpoenas to the Trump Organization in recent weeks for records in connection to the write-offs. This comes after a Times investigation published in September, based on more than 2 decades of Trump's tax records, found that he had deducted approximately $26 million in fees to unidentified consultants on several projects between 2010 and 2018. So, we spoke about this when the tax story originally came out, where they went through Trump's taxes and found that, he basically paid no taxes, and that was, the big headline coming out of that story. But I looked at it in a slightly different way, because the reason why he wasn't paying taxes is because he really wasn't making any money. The bigger issue to me, there were a few things. One of them is that we learned he made about $73 million from foreign investors while he's president, which is a huge red flag, huge corruption red flag, clear violation of the Emoluments Clause, and he's done favors for a lot of people as a result of this. Like, for example, the Saudi Arabia multi-billion-dollar weapons deal. He used to slam Saudi Arabia and say they're responsible for 9/11. Now he's giving them multi-billion-dollar weapons deals as they're doing a genocide in Yemen. And this is all while they're funneling him money through his D.C. hotel. So, huge corruption problem there. That was a bigger story to me. $73 million, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And you also had Jared and Ivanka make about $130 million while they've been in the White House. And again, trace where a lot of that money comes from, and it's sketchy. It's really sketchy stuff. People who are probably trying to get favors. So that, to me, was the bigger story. But beyond that, we also learned, as a matter of fact, and Michael Cohen, his former attorney, spoke about this, he oftentimes inflates reports of his assets when he's requesting bank loans, and then he turns around and underreports them when he's seeking to get lower taxes. That's just a clear case of tax fraud. And of course, when it comes to Ivanka, he just gave a bunch of money to his daughter and then wrote it off of his taxes and said, yeah, I don't know, it's like a consulting fee I'm paying somebody. It just happens to be my daughter. So really, the investigation here is he's guilty. He's guilty, clearly. He did these things. But the question is, how sloppy were they? Like, did Trump listen to his tax lawyers and do it in a way that's technically legal? Or were they so sloppy with it and just thought they would never be under this much scrutiny, and so they just did it not thinking, and then now it's going to come back to bite him in the ass? Because there are many instances of tax fraud. Now, again, he's hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, but we don't have debtor's prison in this country. So it's not like he would go to prison for the hundreds of millions of dollars he owes, like Deutsche Bank, for example. No. But if you screw the IRS, yeah, you can go to prison. So they might get him on tax fraud and tax dodging. And again, there are clear examples that he did stuff that, at the very least, is clearly unethical. But does it cross that line into illegal, or did they cover their tracks enough where they're going to get away with it? Because you guys know the way it works. Oftentimes, the wealthy in this country and corporations have teams of lawyers that find these legal loopholes that they could exploit, where you look at what they did on paper and you go, well, that sounds illegal, but then you see the details of how they did it, and it's like, no, that was technically a loophole that was there that people can exploit, and they did exploit. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get him or not, but I will say this. You're much more likely to get something against Trump through the New York investigation, or investigations, plural, and not necessarily through the federal government. Like, I don't think that the feds are going to get Trump on anything. I think that it's going to be more the New York State investigations, if anything. So, I mean, he's been a con man his whole career, basically. Remember, he had to pay people off after Trump University was a proven fraud. He needed to settle with people because it was clearly fraudulent. You can't just start something and call it a university. You can't do that, by the way, but he did that. And people got cheated. It was fraudulent. And so he's already like a proven con man. So don't be surprised if there are consequences and repercussions, but at the same time, don't be surprised if there's not, because maybe they just covered their tracks enough where technically the stuff they did was legal.